Hey everybody, it's GauntletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today I'm going to be playing a sealed event of the original Dominaria limited format. This is an all-time classic, a lot of people's favorite limited format for good reason. This was the first limited set with a legend in every single pack, so it kind of felt like getting two rares in every pack because most of the legends were pretty powerful build-arounds that could really veer you in a certain direction in the draft, so a lot of really cool different archetypes. Pretty good color balance and archetype balance between everything in the format. Just led to a pretty good, pretty unique limited environment to where most everything was viable. So cool limited format. The reason I'm going to be playing it today is we are going to be getting some events of the sealed Dominaria variety in for practice for the Arena Open this weekend. This Saturday we have Arena Open Day 1, which is a flashback limited Arena Open, which is really cool. I'd love to see them do just more limited Arena Opens in general, since that is my favorite format. It's going to be Dominaria Sealed Day 1 and Dominaria Sealed Day 2. So bringing back one of the classics for the high stakes Arena Open event. So should be some cool stuff. Without further ado though, let's just bust open our packs and see how this old format plays out for us. Alright, so we have a few pretty good rares and a few mediocre ones. Zahid, Djinn of the Lamp, a 6 mana 5/6 flyer is already just good and limited, and if you have any artifacts in your deck, you could potentially cast this for only 4 mana, which is busted. Shalai, Voice of Plenty is probably the strongest rare that we have here. She is a 4 mana 3/4 flyer that gives you and the rest of your creatures and planeswalkers hexproof, and for 6 mana, including double green, you can put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So a very strong white card and an incredibly strong green-white card. We have Ariel, Knight of Windgrace as another pretty sweet rare. 2, a white and a black for a 4/4 Vigilance. She can produce 2/2 Knight creature tokens with Vigilance by spending 3 mana and tapping her. Or we can spend a black, tap her, and X untap Knights to destroy a creature with power X or less. So a really good mana sink that's going to make your board state wide to finish your opponent off rather quickly, and if that isn't enough, if your opponent has something really important on their board that you really need to kill, you can just blow that up with the other ability to clear the way for the rest of your Knights. And the really cool thing about her is because she has Vigilance, you can attack with her and activate her ability, because you don't have to tap her to attack, and the same is true with all those Knight tokens. You can attack with her and all of the Knight tokens, and then before your opponent can declare blocks, you can choose to tap all those Knights and Ariel to blow up their best blocker. Really good, really powerful card. Our next 3 are a lot weaker. Mishra's Self-Replicator, probably the strongest one here, but it's very, very slow. 5 mana for a 2/2, but anytime you cast a Historic spell, you can spend 1 mana to create a copy of this. Historic spells are artifacts, legendaries, and sagas. So the idea behind this card is that once you've cast like 3 historic spells, then it's like really popping off, because 1 mana to get another 2/2 is okay, but not really worth the 5 mana initial investment. The thing is that it starts expanding exponentially. So the first historic spell you cast, you pay 1 and get another replicator. The second historic spell you cast, you now have 2 replicators out, so you spend 2 and get 2 more, and then the third one you cast is where it's just, you're going wild, because the third one you cast, you're going to get 4 more replicators if you have the mana for them. So cool card, but very, very slow. We've got Naban, Dean of Iteration, which is a cool card, but very narrow. If we have a ton of wizards with good enter the battlefield effects, it'll be good. If not, it'll be unplayable. A 2 mana 2/1 is not where it's at. Even a 2 mana 2/2 with no abilities is not very viable. So this one's just very self-explanatory. We need wizards with ETBs. If we have them, it's good. If we don't, it's not. And then finally, Haphazard. Haphazard Bombardment. This is probably actually not our worst rare now that I think of it. It just looks like one of these big random red rares like they like to put in every set, but this one can be pretty explosive. For 6 mana, you get this enchantment onto the board, and you choose 4 non-enchantment permanents you don't control and put an aim counter on each of them. And at the beginning of your end step, you're going to choose one of those cards at random to destroy, and then you're going to do that again in the next end step. So you get to blow up 2 out of the 4 random cards, or 2 out of the 4 cards that you chose at random. So, I mean, if you're not at threat of immediately dying, this does blow up 2 of their 4 biggest threats chosen at random, so it's not completely unplayable. It actually might be kind of interesting, so... yeah, I mean, none of these rares are completely unplayable. Replicator is actually probably the worst now that I think of it, but there are narrow corner cases where any of these might be good, and a few of them are just great, period, like Shalai. Alright, so we're going to go through the entire sealed pool like I tend to do, starting with the colorless and multicolored cards to see if these give us any good mana fixing for thinking about splashing around. Looks like triple short sword, Jousting Lance, so a bunch of equipment. We'll take Servant for a filler creature, Jorah's Familiar also a filler creature, and a couple Wanderers and a Self-Replicator. None of our colorless cards really lead us in a certain direction or help us mana fix or anything like that, so not really a lot to speak on in the colorless cards, but when we look at our multicolored cards, we do have 2 black-white cards, and they play well together. Arvad the Cursed is a vampire knight, so it fits in well with the knight tribal mechanics that Ariel has, plus Arvad is buffing your other legendaries, giving them +2/+2, which also fits well with having other legendaries in your deck like Ariel, so might want to consider white-black as the first deck that we check out, but other than that, nothing huge going on in the multicolored and colorless. This is also, if you look at the very end of your sealed pool on Arena, this is where you can check out how good your mana fixing is, not just in the colorless cards, but also in any dual lands. We did not open up any of the dual lands. There are only dual lands at rare in this format, unlike Dominaria United, so no great mana fixing here. So now we're going to go through every color one by one and see how powerful they are individually, but white looks pretty dang powerful, and we know that we have those 2 great white-black legends. So when we look at our white here, we have a good aggressive curve. We have 2 1-mana 2/1s, the Dauntless Bodyguard, and this can also protect one of your other cards on board. We have 2 2-mana 3/1s, which is a fine aggressive body. 2-mana 2/2 lifelink. Serra Disciple is probably the most filler card we have so far. It's not super easy to get a ton of historic spells in sealed. In draft, you can definitely draft around the Disciple and go for it. Adamant Will is a pretty great trick, +2/+2 indestructible. Double Pegasus Courser to send our Knights of Nubenalia and our Dauntless Bodyguards into the sky once our opponent establishes blockers. Danitha is just a lot of great keyword abilities for a 3-mana 2/2 First Strike, Vigilance, and Lifelink. Pretty great. Invoke the Divine's not going to get main decked, it's just artifact enchantment removal. But Dub is fine. Shalai's great. On Sarah's Wings is phenomenal. You turn whatever you attach with the Sarah's Wings into just a total bomb creature. If I cast this on a Knight of Nubenalia, I now have a 4/2 Flying Vigilance lifelink. So generally, auras tend to play pretty poorly because if your opponent has a removal spell, they're going to blow up 2 of your cards at the cost of 1 of theirs. But when your aura is giving you so many good abilities like On Sarah's Wings does, that makes it actually pretty dang playable, pretty dang powerful. Dub is still borderline. Dub is like you're still going to get hit pretty hard if your opponent 2-for-1s you, and you're not getting that massive of a bonus for playing a Dub, so On Sarah's Wings, 100% super happy with going in the deck no matter what. Dub's a little bit more iffy. Looking at our 5-drops, we have Excavation Elephant. We didn't have anything great when it comes to artifact, so I don't think we're going to end up running this. We don't really need to return any artifacts. And then we've got Blessed Light, which is great removal in this format. 5 mana, it's instant speed, and it exiles, and it hits multiple card types. So really like our white here. I think it's very good. Gives us access to Shalai and On Sarah's Wings for some bombs. And obviously, if we get to go black-white, it's going to give us access to Ariel as well, which is another bomb. Looking at our blue here, we have a few really good cards, but mostly it looks like some filler here. So we have Zahid, Djinn of the Lamp, obviously a bomb, that's great. The Coldwater Snapper plays pretty well in the format, and if we go blue-white, we could even put an On Sarah's Wings on this thing and then have a hexproof flying lifelink. Vigilance, that's kind of just an unbeatable 1-2 punch there, those two cards together. We've got Cloud Reader Sphinx, 5 mana, 3/4 flyer, enters the battlefield scry 2. That's great. Academy Journey Mage is great as well, bouncing an opposing threat when it enters the board. And then when you look at the creatures from that mana down is where we get some really filler creatures. 4 mana for a 3/3. Milling 4 is not enough to really impact the game if it's your only mill card. Not very good. Naban in the deck entirely to counter or to combo with the Academy Journey Mage, and that's it, is not really going to be worth it, because then we're playing a 2 mana 2/1 the vast majority of the time, just for that off chance that I get to bounce 2 creatures 1 game out of the 7, so probably not running Naban in there, unless we're like blue-red with more enter the battlefield effects. Vidalian Arcanist is, I guess, fine if we have a super high instant sorcery count. Artificer's Assistant, we're not going to have a high historic spell count, so that's pretty filler. Looking at the non-creature cards, Unwind is pretty narrow to main deck, when we already have a Wizard's Retort and 2 Syncopates as better counter spells. Particularly the Syncopates. I think, again, I don't want too many counters. I'd probably cut Wizard's Retort and just run the Syncopates as my counter spells. But then we have Time of Ice, and Time of Ice is really good. Tap a creature an opponent controls, it doesn't untap as long as you control Time of Ice. You do that the turn you play it, the turn after you play it, and then on turn 3, you return everything that your opponent controls that's tapped. Well, and your own tapped creatures, but this triggers after your untapped stuff. So basically you're bouncing everything that you tapped down with the Time of Ice back to the hand. So this really, really slows down your opponent, which is quite powerful. A couple deep freezes. These is blue filler removal. This is blue's filler removal. Arcane Flight here. It's okay little aura, +1/+1 flying. Being able to give evasion is pretty huge. But as you can see, when I cut all the filler stuff, blue's pretty small, but high power. Zahid, double Time of Ice, Cloud Reader Sphinx, Journey Mage is solid, double Syncopate's good interaction. There's some good stuff in blue. I'm not going to write it off entirely. So looking at our black here, a big part of what makes black powerful in this sealed pool is the white-black cards. So we'll keep those in mind. As far as good cards in black, we have Deathbloom Thallid. 3 mana 3/2 that replaces itself with a little 1/1 when it trades off. So pretty good value there. The Eldest Reborn is a very powerful saga. Each opponent sacks a creature or planeswalker, then discards a card, then you put the best creature planeswalker from any graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. And that's about it. That's about it. Everything else here really, really filler. Do not like Demonic Vigors. It just never plays that well. It's pretty slow. It's a tiny buff. Blessing of Bells unlocks a pretty tiny combat trick in comparison to what some of the others can do in the format. Really don't like Chainer's Torment because it's horrible against the blue decks. If you're playing against a blue deck with this thing, if you're playing against any deck and your giant XX gets killed, it's going to be bad. But if you're playing against blue and you drain your opponent for 2 life, then spend half of your life making a giant Nightmare Horror, and your opponent just plays the wizard that bounces a creature and bounces your Nightmare Horror, you're pretty much just guaranteed to lose that game. Like, you're so far behind. So really, really, really do not like this card, because it's already not great against regular removal spells, but at least your opponent has to kind of spend a full removal spell there to stop your Nightmare Horror. So it can be like a little bit worth the life that you spent on it. But there are some matchups where this is absolutely horrid, like blue matchups. Yeah, Eldest Reborn again is great. Dark Bargain's pretty solid card draw. But then Cabal Paladin I'm not a fan of. Only 2 toughness for a 4 mana card means it trades down into 2-drops like Rat Colony and stuff. Basically any 2-drop anybody's going to run. Rat Colony's not good if you only have 1 Rat Colony. A 2 mana 2/1 is really bad filler. Grudge Sentinels have an okay activated effect, but they're pretty slow. Windgrace Acolyte's a solid flyer. You gain some life when you play it too, which is okay. Abomination's okay. Black looks pretty dang bad, honestly. Because this is like... these are the cards I actively really don't want to play. The cards that I've left aside here aren't like just the good ones, kind of like I did with blue. It's like the ones that are remotely playable. Like even Final Parting's really slow. And Feral Abomination, Windgrace, Acolyte are just okay. Drudge Sentinels, borderline as well. We just don't have a lot of black, and we don't have a lot of good black. No removal in the color either. It's pretty awkward. Do have that Memorial to Folly, which is nice though, giving you a land that can cycle itself late game if you're flooding out. Pick up a creature from your grave with it. So that one's pretty cool, but yeah, kind of unfortunate there with the Arvod and stuff. I don't think our black's actually good enough to maybe support that. Alright, looking at our red now, not a lot of red cards. Some of these are also pretty bad filler, like Fire Elemental is just 5 mana, 5/4, no text. I mean, it can make the cut, but not exciting. Skizik is better, it's trampling Hasting Fire Elemental, basically. Play it for 5 mana. Cyclops, yeah, these creatures aren't like horrible filler. They're all fine filler. They would all make the cut. When it comes to non-creatures, I probably would not play a Radiant Lightning main deck. Can be a good sideboard card when you're playing against the Saproling matchup and you want to blow up a bunch of 1/1s. But it's not really main deckable. Frenzied Rage, it's fine when you have things that really care about putting auras on stuff, but I don't think we will. And then Goblin Barrage and Haphazard Bombardment, I guess, make the cut as removal, so yeah, red's very mediocre. It's fine. It's probably better than our black, just because there's the filler in the deck is better than the black filler. But it is nothing to write home about. Last but hopefully not least here, we'll take a look at our green. This is a color that again just looks fine. The creatures again feel pretty filler. 5 mana 3/5, 4 mana 4/2. Again, pretty bad. Trading down into 2 mana 2/2s is a really bad thing for the card that you invested 4 mana into to do. Corrosive Druid's fine. Llanowar Scout's not great. Elfheim Druid, we're not ramping into anything. We've got Llanowar Elves and double Elfheim Druid, but there's like nothing good to ramp into anyway. Do have that Grow from the Ashes for splashing, but yeah, green just kind of dirtles. It's not really doing anything, which is awkward, so yeah, green doesn't look super playable either. Sapling Migration's pretty great. Elfheim Druids and Llanowar Elves are pretty great, but we don't have the payoffs for any of those cards. Like, we have the good ramp and then nothing to do with it. Doesn't feel that viable. I mean, we could... We're playing green-white again. We have Shalai. White is 100% the best color in the sealed pool by a country mile. We know that we're white. But deciding the second color is going to be difficult, because I don't think green or black are very good. I think our best secondary color is honestly blue. But if we go blue-white, we don't get to use Shalai's activated ability, and we don't get to use Ariel. So we need to consider how worth it those things are in comparison to just having a better, more consistent deck versus having more high power cards in the deck. I don't know, we'll see. I'm going to take a look at the blue-white. I feel like that's likely going to be the best place this deck can be. Alright, so here's a look at every blue and white card in the sealed pool in a pile together. We get to cut 12 cards out of this deck, which is really nice because we've got a lot of sideboard stuff like the Triple Unwind and the Invoke the Divine we're just going to immediately cut. Then I'll move on to some of the weaker auras like Dub and Arcane Flight. We don't have any huge reasons to run a ton of auras. I guess we have Danitha, making them a little cheaper, or Cold Water Snapper, that's pretty good with the Arcane Flight. Dub, though, doesn't look super great in here. I mean, throwing it on an Nanu Benalia is powerful, but I think we've got better things to do with our creatures and auras. Maybe Arcane Flight makes the cut with Cold Water Snapper. I'll not cut that just yet. Look at our more filler creatures now. We have an Excavation Elephant in here, and we're probably not running any artifacts. We'll take another look at the artifacts in the sealed pool, but I doubt any make the cut. So let's get the Excavation Elephant out of here. Armored Explorer, again, as the only mill card in the entire deck, just not worth running unless you have a ton of cards in your deck that have graveyard synergies, so milling yourself is valuable, but we have 0. So we'll cut the Armored Explorer. Artificer's Assistant does not seem very good in here, just a 1-mana 1/1 flyer that scries maybe 2 or 3 times if we're lucky. That's if we draw like almost every legend in our deck. Nabon, we only have one other wizard that has an Enter the Battlefield effect, so again, playing a 2-mana 2/1 on the off chance that maybe 1 out of the 7 games we play today we get to trigger it is pretty not worth it. Sarah Disciple, again, not a super high historic count, not going to be very good. We do have double time of ice. I should consider that into the historic count, but still, you need a really, really, really high one for Sarah's Disciple, and even then, I'm not a massive fan of it. 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, we still have 6 as the historic count. It's not horrible. So we get to cut 2 more cards here. What does the creature to non-creature count look like? 14 creatures, 11 non-creatures. I think I just want to cut some more non-creature cards then. When it comes to interaction, we have double syncopate, blessed light, to just completely counter their threat or completely exile their threat. I don't love Deep Freeze. Deep Freeze is the kind of card that's only good if your opponent has a really, really big threat that is just going to kill you. Then you get to put it into a 0/4 defender, that's fine. A lot of the other removal like Blessed Light and Syncopate is generally better because you can remove pretty much anything with it and be happy about it. So if you're in the early game and you're getting aggressive, being able to actually just permanently get rid of their blocker, whatever creature it is really good because then you get to keep chipping in for damage. Trying to close out the game. Giving your opponent a 0/4 defender out of whatever you removed is actually giving them a legitimate card back. Not like a full, really good card, but still one that is going to impact the game. It's gonna do some blocking, unless your deck is just absolutely chock full of flyers, which we have a few. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but not enough where I'm super excited about Deep Freeze. So this is the next card I'm really considering cutting, and that would make the deck building super easy because I could just cut two Deep Freeze and call it a deck because we're at 42 cards right now. But I'll do my due diligence here. I'll look through everything else, but that is a standout right now. Wizard's Retort, I think, is definitely worse than Syncopate generally, and especially in this deck because we have 2 wizards total. So this is just a cancel, 3 mana counter a spell. Syncopate much better, being more flexible in terms of the mana cost that you play, and also pretty importantly, exiling whatever you're countering is very nice in this format. Much like Dominaria United, there are a lot of good black recursion spells. There's a Soul Salvage to pick up 2 creatures from your grave to hand, basically the Urborg repossession. And there's the Eldest Reborn, the Elder Dragon Reborn, whatever that one was called. That brings back the best card from a graveyard, so being able to just fully exile whatever threat your opponent's trying to cast is quite nice. So Wizard's Retort potentially on the chopping block. Adamant, well, I think the combat trick's probably fine here, but we do need room for all these other non-creatures, so I could see the combat trick getting cut. And then Arcane Flight here. Very good with Coldwater Snapper. Other than that, it's like solid on a Knight of Numenali or a Dauntless Bodyguard, but we can get 2 for 1 pretty easily with this card, which feels bad. If I throw this on a Knight of Numenali and then my opponent just Shiv and fires it for 2 damage to it, that's going to feel horrible. So, in the interest of not getting 2 for 1 to that, could be a cut. And the weakest of all of our creatures is the Arcanist, but our creature count's pretty low, so I'd be okay running the 2 mana 1/3. Kind of all it is. 2 mana 1/3, maybe it makes our Journey Mage cheaper. Maybe it helps cast a Blessed Light or a Syncopate or something with its tap ability. It's not like good filler, but it's not atrocious, and it keeps that creature count up to at least 14 here. I think I want to keep the Arcanist and then cut 2 of these cards over here. I actually do quite like the look of this deck. I'm probably just going to roll with blue-white today. I will take a peek at white-black and white-green real quick after I adjust this deck, but it's going to be hard to buck me off of this strategy because those double Time of Ice, double Syncopate, Zahid, Cloud Reader Sphinx, these are all pretty great cards that look quite spicy here. So I think I'm going to meet somewhere in the middle here. I'm going to cut like 1 Deep Freeze but keep 1 in because I do have a relatively high Flyers count. And with Arcane Flight, I can keep that up as well, so we'll put that back in. And then it's between the combat trick and the counter spell. Again, I do have the double Syncopate, so we'll go Wizard's Retort out, keep the combat trick in here. We'll call this the deck that we'll be rolling with, most likely. Alright, so I'm just going to name it Blue-White. I'm going to give it a nice picture. And I am going to save that deck. I'm going to boot back into the deck building here and take a peek at what's available in white, black, and white, green Oh, another quick peek at the colorless cards, because I did say I was going to do that before I confirmed the blue-white deck. But yeah, I mean, none of these cards make the cut in that blue-white deck. Like maybe one Lance or one Short Sword or something, but it doesn't generally feel necessary or super worth it there. Alright, so taking a look at the black-white strategy, I'm just going to cut the filler cards really quick here, because, again, I think it's quite likely we're just blue-white, so I don't want to waste too much time here. Yeah, this deck is bad. We get to play Ariel and Arvad, which is really cool, but I have to run like Drudge Sentinel style filler to make it to 23 cards, and I have to run the Sarah Disciple. I have to run Dub, unless I throw some of those artifacts in. Maybe 6 mana 5/5s are better than some of the filler I've ended up putting in here. Like the Sarah Disciple, a Drudge Sentinel. This deck has one removal spell. Eldritch Reborn is sort of removal, but your opponent gets to choose what they sacrifice, so you're never killing the card that you want to the most. You're killing your opponent's weakest creature. Not a super interactive deck here. Again, we've got that Ariel, which is great, but the blue deck has Zahid and double Time of Ice, so the blue deck's got some great cards too. Yeah, like, the biggest thing going for black here is we get Ariel and Eldritch Reborn, which are both very, very powerful cards. But going blue, we get Zahid and double Time of Ice, which are very powerful cards. And we also get better filler cards than what we have here. Yeah, not super into this black-white pile. Quick look at black-green, or white-green. But again, likely sticking with the blue-white. This is 28 cards. Wow, so I only get to cut 5 here. Not in love with that. Definitely the Excavation Elephant again isn't doing anything. Invoke the Divine is not. Sarah Disciple is not. One more cut. Llanowar Scout, I guess. Yeah, I mean, getting Shalai's activated ability is pretty big, and we actually have some interaction in this green deck because we have a combat trick. We've got a fight spell here with Ancient Animus. But again, the stuff we're getting by putting green in this deck, it's really just Shalai's ability. And that's a 3 mana 2/3, it's a 5 mana 3/5 reach. A couple ramp cards with, again, very little to ramp into outside of Shalai's ability. It looks fine, but I'm pretty happy with the blue-white build. I think that is the best build for the sealed pool. So let's take one last look at that, get the mana base all pretty, do a little deck overview, and then we'll head into the games. Alright, here we have the final deck we'll be playing today. It's going to be a blue-white tempo deck. We have the very good aggressive white creatures, like Dauntless Bodyguard as a 1 mana 2/1 that can even save a creature if we draw it later in the game. Knight of Nubinalias as 2 mana 3/1s, and Mesa Unicorn 2 mana 2/2 lifelink, with some Pegasus Coursers to get those things in the sky so they can keep attacking throughout the game. And then Danitha and Shalai, so really good suite of aggressive white creatures to get the game started. Arcane Flight to get some of those into the sky, Adamant Will to make them win combat, and then the super good tempo plays to try to back them up, slowing down our opponent long enough to hopefully defeat them with our early game creatures. We've got Syncopates to counter their spells, we've got Time of Ice, which can really slow down our opposing threats. On Sarah's Wings is another huge way to turn one of those small creatures into a big game ender. And a Blessed Light and a Deep Freeze for a little bit of interaction for things that have resolved. So, very aggressive curve of white creatures, and then in the end game, trying to just close things out with some evasive threats. Again, Double Courser, Shalai, and our big bombs. Cloud Reader Sphinx is a giant flyer, Zahid is a massive flyer, and then Cold Water Snapper is just a big dorky hexproofer. So we've got the Cold Water Snapper on Sarah's Wings combo though, so if that ever happens, that's going to be horrifically difficult for somebody to beat. So cool deck here, blue-white tempo. Again, early aggressive start, and then just trying to keep our opponents keep our opponent on tilt, so to speak, just keep the game skewed in our favor, keep them from landing too much on the board, keep the scales tipped. So yeah, we'll see how it does as we head into the gameplay. Alright, here we are in game 1. Not sure I can keep a hand that doesn't do anything till turn 4, but I'm really tempted to because the mana's good and the cards in hand are powerful. But I feel like it's got to be a mulligan. No plays till turn 4. Hand's not much better, nothing till turn 3, and now we're down a card. But you gotta do what you gotta do, can't really afford to go to 5. At least it's not worth it with a hand like this. This hand is not horrible. Blue-white mirror match here. Opponent has the original Dominaria lands on, very flavorful. Sergeant at Arms get a 2/3 onto the board so that our Danitha Capuchin does not accomplish anything. Hold up a Syncopate, but then I'm not doing anything with my mana if I don't want to counter their 4-drop. I'd rather just play the Pegasus Courser and then I can actually start chipping in the turn after this. Fingers crossed their 4-mana play is not exceptional. Alright, no 4-mana play. Ooh, we are only 1 mana away from Zahid, and that's going to be huge. Let's just start chipping in and holding up our combat trick and our Syncopate here. Wrath Patient. This is all good to me because I have a combat trick. And then I get to Syncopate whatever they try to play during their turn. Alright, that's syncopatable. Good enough. Really was hoping for the basic land there. That was a big reason, big part of why I syncopated. I didn't like need to counter the 3/2, but it was a solid counter there, and then because I was going to potentially just tap out entirely for Zahid next turn anyway, I wouldn't be holding up the counterspell this turn if that happened. Alright, Juggernaut is fine. We can outrace that with our 4 power of lifelink on board. Okay, and there's the mana for Zahid. Unfortunately, they have Syncopate up. They have Syncopate mana up, which I'm not very into. I feel like we still just go for it here. At this point, they're on 6 mana already. The odds of them having like a 6-drop or something pretty low. It's going to be hard to be in a position where we can afford to cast a Zahid and hold up mana for Syncopate. And it's going to be hard for our opponent to get in a position where they can't afford to hold up a Syncopate. So, kind of just got to do it here. They have Syncopate, they have Syncopate. No Syncopate, but they have something. They are thinking a lot during our turn. One of the kind of just sad parts of playing on Arena is you kind of have to just use the information that sometimes it's just going to auto-pass through your turn. And then you can generally assume that your opponent probably doesn't have an instance, otherwise Arena would be holding for them unless they're slamming through their turn super, super quickly. So, if your opponent is thinking a lot during your turn, you can do this in paper too. If your opponent's thinking a lot during your turn, they probably have instance. But especially on Arena, Arena kind of just really likes to snitch on people by making the stops mandatory, even if you have an instant you don't want to play. Blink of an Eye. Okay, so they're just going to slow down the Zahid. Hit us with Juggernaut. Now they have a Sanctum Spirit, which they can discard a historic card to give indestructible. So because they have a free instant speed activated ability on board, Arena is going to stop for them at all times, no matter what. So now we don't get to know if our opponent has any instants in hand here. Yeah, this was the kind of thing, during my first year playing Arena, I really hated like thinking about that aspect and playing in that way, because this is not information you should ever have in a 1v1 game of actual paper Magic or on Magic Online. Like, you just never know for sure if your opponent has stuff in hand. But the way that I came to think about it is like, well, I mean, Arena's telling my opponent every time I'm holding instance up too, so it's part of the Arena meta. Your opponent's going to take that into account, you should take it into account as well, even if it doesn't feel great. Alright. What does my opponent want to discard? My opponent doesn't discard anything. Danitha just kills the spirit, period, and doesn't even die. And I can still Pegasus Courser Macy Unicorn attacks, because Danitha's not blocking anytime anyway, so she's attacking just like the Macy Unicorn would attack with the Courser, so... I mean, worst case scenario, Danitha's trading for a card in our opponent's hand. Alright, that works too. We got the Blood Tallow Candle out of here now, and our opponent gains 0 life this turn. 5, 6, 7, 8. They're not quite dead, but pretty great combat for us here. Now we can Cloud Reader Sphinx and Dauntless Bodyguard, which is really sweet, because the Dauntless Bodyguard is going to allow us to counter their life gain if we want. Probably not worth it. But I could block the 3/2 lifelinker and then sack the Bodyguard in response, if I felt that that life gain was going to be too much for us, but it's not going to be. Opponent is going to scoop it up, and we're going to be 1-0 as we head into Game 2. Here we are in Game 2 now. We're going to just insta-keep this one. Nothing till turn 3, but solid stuff starting there. Pegasus Courser with the Deep Freeze is a pretty good synergy, because then we don't get hit that hard by giving our opponent a 0-4 defender, since we can just throw everything into the sky anyway. Now we did draw into a 2-mana play, which is nice. Not a particularly great one, but still gives us something to do early game. Get this Arcanist down. Opponent is on white and black, and they've got the Dominaria lands as well. Is that what it defaults to in this mode? That'd be really cool. I'm used to it always just defaulting to the newest sleeves, or the newest lands that you own. But if it's actually defaulting to the Dominaria lands for Dominaria Sealed decks, that would be really cool. And maybe if they can implement that technology, they could implement favorite lands. Soon. Hopefully. Thallid's not great for me here. Play the Bodyguard and trade into Thallid. If I play Courser, I'm just not blocking right now. It's probably best to stay mana efficient. Take some extra damage in the early game here. This is weird. I can use a combat trick to kill my Arcanist. I guess Servant's basically Vigilance anyway. Alright, 2 Voltaic Servants, so if they get a good artifact on the board that taps to do something, that could be pretty bad for me. I don't really think it matters what I put the Bodyguard on, because it's probably just trading into the Thallid. I guess I could double block the Thallid with both of my 1/3s, and then they kill my Pegasus Courser, but that feels like a not great trade. Pegasus Courser is just a very good ability to keep around. Although now that I have Bodyguard on Courser, I guess I could still do the double block, and they can choose to kill the Arcanist if they want. And if they don't choose to kill the Arcanist, I can just kill the Bodyguard instead of the Courser. Looks like they're just done attacking, period. Very big fan of our 6 drops here, so we're just going to try to use those soon. Could be chipping in for 1 damage here with the Courser, but like just having all of the blockers for all of their stuff. Call the cavalry. Alright, that's fine. A couple 2/2s. A couple sody pops. Ooh, Shalai, Voice of Plenty. Mana efficient just plays a Heed here. If I plays Shalai though, if they have removal, they probably just throw it at Shalai, and then Zahid is more likely to stick around. And Zahid is just straight up more powerful, because giving the rest of our board hexproof doesn't really matter when they're just going to kill Shalai first regardless. Shalai plays pretty poorly into like a combat trick from our opponent, because she's just not going to block well against any combat tricks. But if my opponent has a removal, I get to draw the removal out and then play Zahid next turn, so could be fine. I can also just play Snapper and just keep them off my face, and then start slowly but surely playing the flying threats. Play a slow game here. Just chill, just hang out. Play a bunch of gigantic blockers. Haven Sentry. Alright, they've got a flyer. Deep freeze that. I hit a land. Shalai plus deep freeze is a pretty good turn. Knight of New Benalia. I could play the Knight and Shalai or the Knight and deep freeze. Go Shalai and Knight here. One thing that you'll notice a lot today is that if a play is like really close between 2 lines, one of the simple things you can do is just what's the most mana efficient, what lets me spend the most mana this turn. So I'm like, these plays are both like very similarly strong, so I'll just simplify it for myself and play whatever uses the most of my mana. Alright, so we have drawn a removal spell from our opponent's hand, so Zahid is more likely to stick around. We are going to take 1 hit from Haven Sentry now, though. Be fine. Okay. I don't think I'm deep freezing the Haven Sentry. I do think I'm hitting them with this Knight and then playing Zahid, most likely. So the discard in this format makes you discard 2, so holding this land doesn't help us from that if they have a discard spell. I can't think of anything that makes me discard 1 outside of the Eldest Reborn, which we'll know that it's coming, because it doesn't make us discard until part 2 of the saga. So, not a huge point in holding on to the land unless I think I can get to 3 cards in hand to play around a discard 2. Caligo's Skin Witch is the best discard spell in the format. 2 mana 1/3 that you can kick for 4. Urgoros is a discard spell as well. Glad we still have this Deep Freeze, because that is a much better target than the Haven Sentry. Okay, another Pegasus Courser, sure. Unfortunately, our Pegasus Coursers are not really attacking into a 3/2 flyer. But we could cash them in for a bunch of extra damage at some point. And they are blocking well. Now I can double block the Aven Sentry. So our opponent has a Memorial to Folly on board, so if one of their creatures ever dies, they can bring it back from graveyard to hand. Knight of Grace, 3/2 first strike. Hexproof from black, but that doesn't matter. We are not playing any black cards. Urgaros, the empty one, feeling very empty over here with 0 power. RIP. Stuck in an ice cube. Ooh, Blessed Light. That's just lethal if they don't have interaction. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. A bit of a cross your fingers and pray kind of play, but I'm just going to go for it. I mean, our opponent has maximum 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 on the crackback. Opponent can't kill us on the crackback, and we're going to have blockers left anyway. So, if this goes monumentally bad, I don't even die. And if this goes right, my opponent dies right now. And if, even if it goes monumentally bad, they take a lot of damage here and then just die next turn after we untap, even if I untap with 1 life. Alright, so they are just dead. That is going to be 2-0 now for this blue-white Dominaria Sealed deck. Game 3 now. This is about the slowest hand I'm willing to keep, but we've got double Time of Ice and Shalai, which is absurd. I'm going to keep it here. We need to draw 1 land at some point, and if we draw some early game plays in the meantime, that'll be great. It has all of our strongest 4-mana plays. Actually, no, this deck is just chock full of incredible 4-drops. We actually have Onsar's Wings at 4 mana as well. Well, now we've got a Syncopate at the ready for one of their early plays. That's pretty threatening. Making their stuff basically unblockable, but I can bounce that with Time of Ice. So it doesn't make everything unblockable. Only makes their 1 power or 1 toughness creatures unblockable. No attacks with Tetsuko. Very interesting. I'm just going to get this out of the way because I'm going to be tapping out every turn from now on. I'm going to go Shalai, then Time of Ice, then Time of Ice. I'm not going to have the mana. To hold up a Syncopate. Aven Sentry, alright, cool. Yeah, we're definitely just going to play a bunch of Time of Ices, I think. Could play Onsar's Wings here. But I don't want to do that till I can hold up Adamant Will at the very least. But our opponent's on blue-white, so they probably bounce or exile Shalai if they're going to get rid of her, which both of those play really poorly against the Onsar's Wings, especially poorly against Adamant Will, because giving Indestructible doesn't protect from exile. Main deck, Invoke the Divine. Alright, you got us. Pegasus Courser Adamant Will here is fine. We know they can't blow up the Pegasus Courser in response to our Adamant Will, because it has Hexproof as long as we have Shalai. Cool. Alright, and again, as long as we have this Shalai, can't do anything about the Pegasus Courser, so we'll get that one the lifelink to win the race. Super awkward, but maybe it's correct to also put Arcane Flight on it. I really hate the idea of 3-for-1ing myself, though. Having a creature with 2 auras on it here. But again, they can't deal with it till they deal with Shalai, so I mean, there's that. Oh no! See, this is what I thought was going to happen to me if I 3-for-1 myself on a creature, but looks like it's going to happen to our opponent instead. I'm going to save this Arcane Flight and put it on this Unicorn. Probably wrong. Like, I would have gotten 2 more damage by now. They'd be at 6. It would be very funny if I lose because it didn't Arcane Flight the Pegasus Courser, but things are looking really good for us, so unlikely that that ends up mattering. Yeah, I'm probably a little bit too opposed to stacking all my auras onto one thing when it has hexproof. Sentinel of the Pearl Trident. They get to flicker the Tetsuko. So Tetsuko will be untapped again. But my whole board has flying and they're at 3 life. And they are going to scoop them up. It's going to be 3-0 for us as we head into game 4. I should have just enchanted the Mesa Unicorn, or not the Mesa Unicorn, the Pegasus Courser with everything under the sun. Just all kinds of performance enhancement. Oh, here we go. This is the most aggressive hand we've had so far. Not being able to protect anything with the bodyguard's a little rough, but getting 2 damage out immediately is nice. Crazy thing about the bodyguard is even if you don't have a chosen creature, it's still gonna wait at all times. So, actually a tiny bit of upside there, because now our opponent never gets to know when we have an instant, and we're a blue-white deck, so that's genuinely a tiny bit valuable. Alright, a 1/3 is actually horrific for us. Hate that. Hate that. I'm probably going for Cold Water Snapper on Sarah's Wings here. Just play the long game now. I could on Sarah's Wings this Dauntless Bodyguard, but that is something that can actually just get removal spells cast on it pretty easily. And I'm pretty sure Cold Water Snapper on Sarah's Wings wins most games. So we just play it real slow for it. If our opponent can't Mind Rot us, if they can't make us discard any cards, seems like a pretty good game plan. They want to trade a combat trick for my Arcanist, I'm a-okay with that. But they get some free life gain here otherwise. Baloth Gorger, that's pretty big. That's threatening. Syncopate. Feels a tad late, but maybe they'll cast something stronger than the Baloth Gorger. One can hope. Sure. These aren't blocking anything well with their 1 toughness, and they can't get through. This is first strike. So we'll 2-for-1 ourselves to kill the Gorger. I think I'm gonna let that happen. Syncopate whatever they try to cast with that mana. Awkwardly enough, I think I'm in a position here where even if I hit the land, I'm just gonna hold up Syncopate now. Because now we know they just have exact mana. Okay, and I didn't hit the land, which makes the choice even easier. But if the board state stays the exact same, right, I have all the time in the world to set up my Cold Water Snapper stuff. So it feels really important to just hold up the Syncopate and make sure nothing insane happens. Sergeant at Arms. That's not that insane. It does let them start getting some amount of attacks in. This is awkward. Syncopate for 1 is not going to counter anything, so I guess I should have just syncopated that. I guess it'd be Syncopate for 2, but Syncopate for 2 when my opponent has 7 mana up. Yep, they just have 1,000 tiny creatures that will kill me. I don't have good outs to 1,000 tiny creatures. I guess I should have just syncopated. Okay, well I can syncopate this one then. Still got to syncopate a Sergeant at Arms. If I syncopate for 1, they could tap Scout, play a land, tap and pay for it, so we gotta syncopate for at least 2 here, just in case. Alright, we got the land. That's good. Very good. Now we play the Coldwater Snapper, and we've got another blocker. And then... yeah, I'm actually fine here. I thought it was way more damage than it was. I'm still at 18. No. Alright. They don't have enchantment removal. This is gonna be completely beautiful. That plays a Heed first, though. The most main deckable enchantment removal spell in the format is Blessed Light, which is exile a creature or enchantment. And if they have that, they're going to exile Zahid here, and then I can on Sarah's Wings the Snapper to victory. So I think I actually play Zahid first, and see if I draw out Blessed Light from my opponent. And then if they just don't have removal for Zahid, that's super fine too, then we can just start hitting them with that. Okay, they do have an Eviscerate. Hopefully they don't have Eviscerate plus Blessed Light. They don't have the mana for Blessed Light regardless. Now I can even bodyguard the Snapper, so even if they exile on Sarah's Wings here, I can give the Snapper indestructible so it doesn't just immediately die to everything that they block it with. That was like the biggest concern here about them having enchantment removal, is that the Coldwater Snapper falls out of the sky and then gets blocked by a ton of stuff. Alright, Mending of Dominaria is fine. It's a pretty good draw spell. They're going to draw 2 creatures out of their graveyard. So they're going to pick up a Shauna, which is a very, very big card, but I can deep freeze it and just turn it into a 0/4. And then next turn they get to pick up a Baloth Gorger, or whatever they mill at random, and then they're going to get a bunch of lands on the board. This is all fine. Coldwater Snapper's still just popping off here. I don't know what this black splash is for. Picked up a Baloth Gorger, they've got a Skittering Spray. Oh, it's for the Eviscerates, it's for the removal. Alright, Baloth Gorger, also a 7/7. Although Shauna would have been an 8/8 now, so still fine that we deep freezed Shauna. Chump blocker, that's fine. Alright, we're not going to be able to play around the Mind Rot style effect. I should probably just play this land. Although, do I have any card draw on this deck? I have 0 card draw on this deck, so it's impossible to get in a position where I need to play 2 lands in 1 turn if I just keep 1 land in my hand at all times. That's the biggest way you can kind of get caught with your pants down by holding an extra land in your hand, is if you draw into like a Divination, which is like 3 mana draw 2, and then you cast that and you've got the land that you've been holding in your hand, and a second land that you drew into, and a spell that costs so much that you would have needed to play both lands, then you can be like, ah, I should have played that land earlier. Ooh, Syncopate. Well, now our opponent has a ton of mana, so I think I just play that, because the Syncopate is going to probably need that. Now, even if they draw Blessed Light, we counter that. We, again, win the race. Coldwater Snapper on Sarah's Wings is just ridiculous. Sure, we can let the Bodyguard die. So they're putting that shield down so that it's slightly more likely they can find a way to kill the Snapper. Okay. I can counter unless they spend 7. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There could be a trick that could kill Coldwater Snapper that's cheap enough here that I shouldn't block. So I still kill them in 2 swings, I'm pretty sure. Right, they go to 6, so they go to 8, then they go to 10. That's still 2 swings of Snapper. So yeah, they die in 2 swings regardless. So we don't put the Snapper at any risk here. Pegasus Courser. Kind of a big deal. Now we don't kill them in 2 swings. 6, 7, 8 mana. I can counter unless they spend 8 and just tax all of their mana here. but then it still resolves. And their last card in hand might just be a land anyway. What a draw. Good lord. Thank you, game. That's kind of a perfect response to that. Now they are still dead in 2 swings. Alright, have they found a solution here? Have they found the enchantment removal? Or on Sarah's wings? They do have so much mana from casting that kicked Bountiful Harvest or whatever it's called, that they can pay for the Syncopate. Alright, they're just going to swing everybody in. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. They could have that thing that puts 2 counters on everybody. Oh my god, they might have the Wild Onslaught here, off the Mending of Dominaria, shuffling it back in. 2 +1/+1 counters on everybody. Two counters on everybody. That's... We block the biggest one for sure. Two counters on everybody. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. That's not dead. And then I kill them on the crackback, if I can counter it. I think I can afford to counter it. I think I do this. Isn't it if they have some weird trick that gives like death touch, my snapper doesn't die? Okay. Counter unless they spend 3? Okay, I can't counter it. Okay. But they're not dead anymore, so they probably kill me in 2 turns. This is bad. I guess I should have blocked. With Cold Water Snapper here. I just don't remember the format well enough to remember if there's like a death touch trick. Okay, I'm pretty sure Academy Journey Mage means we still win. 3, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Oh yeah, I didn't even need the Journey Mage, we're still fine. Still fine the whole time. Alright. I guess we block the bodyguard here. Alright, and they do scoop them up. Okay. I wish I remembered the tricks in this format a little better. That would have made that a much less risky thing. I don't actually think there is a black combat trick in this format that gives death touch. I'm racking my brain here. I know there's Blessings of Bells Unlock. Does that give death touch? I need to check on that. No, there's no Blade Brand in the format, is there? There's no Blade Brand. Blessings of Bells Unlock doesn't give death touch. They could have had Colossal Growth or something, though, and they'd kill the Snapper. Gift of Growth, I suppose. +4/+4 for 4 mana, which they had exactly enough mana to cast Wild Onslaught for 4 and hold the 3 up for the Syncopate, which means if their card in hand was Gift of Growth and I went to block with the Cold Water Snapper, if I blocked anything with 2 power or more, they could have killed Snapper and I couldn't have countered it. So there were tricks there that I was playing around without knowing it. I guess if I knew the tricks perfectly, the best block would be to block a 1/1, right? Because then if they have Gift of Growth, they still can't kill the Snapper. If they have Wild Onslaught, it doesn't kill the Snapper. There's nothing that gives Death Touch in this format. There's nothing that gives +5/+5. So that would be a guaranteed way to gain 5 life off of that block. To be at a safer life total in that interaction. Yeah, we'll see. I'm going to be playing more Dominaria, as I said before, through the week. But I'm pretty sure, looking at my sealed pool, thinking through those games, there's not a Death Touch trick. So I'm pretty sure I've just been playing around something from Dominaria United that doesn't exist in regular Dominaria. That's a Death Touch Indestructible trick. So we should probably stop playing around that. But great record now. We're 4-0, so whatever happens from this point on, a positive win rate. But we'll see if we can't get at least a couple more wins, break even on the sealed event. Sealed events, of course, pretty expensive. It's really hard to break even. Got to get 6 wins to do so, because you're getting 9 packs no matter what. Sorry, the 6 packs you open and the 3 extra packs, even if you scrub out. So see if we can't get a couple more wins here in today's sealed event. All right, game 5 on the play. Great hand to curve out here. Let's go for it. Another blue-white deck. They're going to start with Knight of Dominaria. Danitha is great against that. First striker against the 1 toughness creature. Got to feel pretty bad. Danitha. Danitha is perfectly average against Danitha. Balances things out. I hate you, auto-tapper. Whenever you don't auto-tap, your opponent knows something's going on with the mana. Why would I be holding up blue and 1? Just wish the auto-tapper were a little smarter sometimes. Why would I be holding up blue and 1? Alright, opponent gets to gain 2 life for free here. Whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa, whoa, wee, whoa. 2 mana, +2/+2, indestructible. Don't really want to lose my Danitha to that trick. But unless they have 2 tricks here, they can't make this go super well for them. Something bad happens for my opponent. Alright, Adamant Will, I can't syncopate that. Alright, so we're going to both lose our Danithas. Cool. We basically, I basically blocked their Danitha with my Danitha, but in this exchange I got rid of Danitha and Adamant Will, so it worked strictly better than if I just played Danitha. Tragic Poets, they get to return auras from grave to hand? Yeah, or sagas. Okay, cool. They don't have any of those yet. Dauntless Bodyguard. This card is fine. Guess I can just trade this for the knight. Bodyguard on Courser. I almost feel like I'd rather trade Arcanist for Knight. I'm going to leave myself open to that option. This also makes it so they can't attack with Tragic Poet. And I get to hold up Syncopate for 3 instead of Syncopate for 2. So a lot of little marginal things that could be helpful here. 1/3 body is pretty good against the 1/1 over there. I'll trade the 2/1. Plus, again, Arcanist is helping my Syncopate be a little stronger. It's going to be a very slow game. I'm not going to on Sarah's Wings a 1-power creature, I think. It doesn't really speed up the clock meaningfully. Sure, we'll just start attacking with everybody now. Sure. The 2/1 is super fine. Take 1. Play a land. Technically losing this race a tiny bit. Not if I hold Arcanist back. Then I'm hitting them for 1 a turn and they're hitting me for nothing, unless they cast a Historic spell to give the Relic Runner unblockable. Yep, Kind of just waiting for any relatively high power creature here to change things around. Either Syncopate that or Blessed Light it. I think I'd probably rather Syncopate, because Blessed Light I can use even if something resolves. I definitely want to get rid of that. That does impact the game. I probably would have gotten greedy there, like I'm getting greedy with this on Sarah's Wings. I probably wouldn't have cast it, because they're one land away from kicking it. Wouldn't really change the course of this game, because then I would just syncopate it after they played it when they kicked it, but I'm a greedy boy, that's all I'm saying. Alright, please don't. Please don't. I mean, this again doesn't really speed up my clock that much. I'm already winning by a lot without casting on Sarah's Wings. There's no reason to open myself up to getting 2 for 1. Glittering Surveyor, super fine. Hitting for 4 damage a turn is going to kill them in 4 attacks. If I hit for 5 a turn, I kill them in just 3. I actually do speed up the clock by a turn by dropping on Sarah's Wings now. Make it even faster. Actually, more than a turn. I think I actually kill them in 2 swings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I actually kill them in 2 attacks if I throw on Sarah's Wings out now. Oh! Oh, how greedy do I get? I mean, we saw last game. Cold Water Snapper on Sarah's Wings is practically unbeatable, so I'm going to kill them a little slower to set that up again. This way I don't open them up to the out of me dropping on Sarah's Wings on night, attacking with these 3, and then them top decking Vicious Offering or something to cast on whatever I put the wings onto. That would have been a pretty solid out there. But now they can't do that because they just can't kill the Snapper. They just definitely die to that. And actually, does my clock even get slowed down here? No, this still kills them in 2 turns if they hadn't played a flyer. So this is just strictly the better play, because I get to throw the Snapper into the sky for 5 damage there and then 4 flying damage here. So they're still exactly dead this turn if they didn't play a flyer. Since they did, I will just attack with the Snapper, I think. I attack with these 2. I get to kill the Courser, take 8, go to 1, or kill the Knight, take 6. I don't feel great. I'm just going to send in the Snapper. Build your own Mega Bomb. Cold Water Snapper on Sarah's Wings. Eldest Reborn. Okay. Sack a creature, Planeswalker. Sad day for Arcanist. I think it's probably time to drop it. We are going to have to discard a card this turn, so we'll consider that based on how I play. Consider that, factor that into how I play. Is this kicked? I hope it's not. It is not. Cool. Okay, cool. Oh, what am I? My opponent's just dead. I'm silly. Think about all this stuff, but my opponent's just dead. They only have 1 flying blocker. They chump there, take 4. And we're gonna be 5-0, just riding our gigantic turtle friend all the way to victory. Our angelic flying lifelinking angel turtle, the legendary Cold Water Snapper. Oh, it doesn't become an angel, it just becomes legendary. Yeah, riding the gigantic turtle all the way to victory feels pretty good. I guess we are turtly enough for the Turtle Club. Game 6, let's go. See if we can get our 6th win. Get all of our gems back out of this event. That would be beautiful. Got a good curve here in that we're starting with a 2-drop. We do have a Syncopate we could play on 3 if my opponent casts a good 4-drop. Ooh. Opponent's on green, white, black. Cast down. Do I Syncopate a cast down instead of playing a Pegasus Courser? If my opponent thinks Knight of Numenali is worth killing, that doesn't sound horrible to me. We get to keep the damage going, and if my opponent has more removal, they'll probably throw that at the Knight as well. Because they already thought it was worth throwing a spell at. And yeah, the fact that they thought it was worth throwing the spell at means they probably don't have a lot of creatures here. I still get to curve out with Shalai, I just don't put the Courser on board. Still getting quite a bit of damage down. Rite of Bells Unlocked, that's a problem. That is a problem. They get a couple 0/1s, they get a couple 0/1s again, then they get a big demon that's very scary. So hopefully Cloud Reader Sphinx can scry us into our Academy Journey Mage. That would be incredible, because then we get to bounce their demon token and ruin their day. Macy Unicorn, is that worth it? It's not bad here, and my opponent's at 11. I feel like I get rid of it, though, because we're looking for, like, Blessed Light or Academy Journey Mage to really, really close out this game against this Rite of Bells Unlock. It's on 4 color over there. Very, very splashy deck. That's kind of terrifying for us. That means they should have probably every rare in their sealed pool in their deck. The Cloud Reader Sphinx is very good for them here. That's going to block the Knight of Nubenalia all day, as well as bounce off of one of our flyers, potentially. Unfortunately, just another land for us. Pretty rough draw there. Need a tiny bit more gas to try to close things out. If we don't get it, we are going to die to this demon. If I attack with everybody, they can kill Knight of Nubenalia, but they take 6 if they do that. Going to 5 life. There's so much I could have here that'd be so good. Like Time of Ice. Got 2 Time of Ices in here. My Blessed Light for removal. Academy Journey Mage. That's okay, those are all still really good draws at this point, even if I don't have them yet. Got a lot of gas draws. And if they have to use the demon on the defensive, they do eventually get to a point where it's going to be bad for them. Because they do have to sack a creature during their upkeep every turn. Really not what we need right now. Pass turn. Hopefully running out of gas. And then the demon. Icy Manipulator off the top. That's so brutal. Coldwater Snapper is not horrible here. Hexproof is pretty big. Walk and kill this. Get like 1 damage in that way. Whoa. We have 5 power worth of combat tricks here? This feels like I either kill them on my next attack or I die. That kind of play. Academy Journey Mage. That's very good. Zahid, Djinn of the Lamp. This is a brutal game. Yeah, we're just dead. Tap down Cloud Reader Sphinx. They have 9 power in the sky. They can tap down 1 now and 1 next turn because Ice Manipulator. That Ice Manipulator off the top just sealed this. I think we could have won without that. Or if we just hit more gas. We had many cards that would have been just kind of insta-lethal several of those draw steps, like Adamant Will, Time of Ice, On Sarah's Wings. Just some rough draws there. Ran out of gas against the Rite of Bells Unlock, kind of bomb rare, into Ice Manipulator, best uncommon in the format. Brutal game. Alright, on the play, turn 3 Danitha, let's go. Got a Time of Ice here as well. Alright, Danitha is pretty good against 2 toughness creatures. With that first strike. Shield of the Realm. If a source would deal damage to a creature, prevent 2 of that damage. Okay, so I can't kill that anymore. Good Time of Ice it to slow it down, but I think I'll just play a Pegasus Courser. Start sending Danitha in the sky. If you want to combat trick the Courser, that's cool by me. Another Cabal of Angel, all the 2/2s. Move the shield over to the other one. Alright, all good. All good. Got an Adamant Will and a Mace Unicorn here that I'm going to play around with. Throw from the Ashes. Set up some mana here. I'm going to throw the Unicorn on some wings so my whole board has flying. They grab double Island, so they're on a 3-color deck here. Now they have the double blue for whatever they need. Maybe a Merfolk Trickster here. That would be a card that costs double blue. I don't think I Adamant Will here. I think I just keep letting that in because I have a lot of lifelink. Save the Adamant Will to deal with a bigger creature. That might matter more. Okay, they do not have double blue up anymore, so they can't have a Merfolk Trickster, which is good. And now I have a Syncopate as well. So now that we know they don't have a Merfolk Trickster or a Counterspell or anything like that to play here, we can just go for the wings. It's gonna guarantee get us a lot of damage in this turn minimum. And I get to hold up Syncopate or Adamant Will for whatever they try to do to interact with our board. Slim Voda. Honestly, not that bad, right? It's not kicked. Just an 8/8. Especially if we hit the basic land, then we get to still hold up Syncopate Adamant Will next turn. Just incredible. This is some blue-white tempo nonsense right here. This is what you think of when you think of a tempo deck. I've got all these creatures on board you can't block, and I'm just going to let you play your 8/8 and just tap it down and sit here. It's incredibly rude. Alright, opponent's going to scoop them up, and that means we are going to be 6-1 now. We are getting all of our gems back out of this event, which feels pretty good. But we still get to compete for that 7-win run. We've got 2 2 shots in the barrel here. We got 2 rounds in the chamber to attempt to get our 7th win. So let's head into what may be the final game of Magic for today. Alright, here we are in maybe the final game. Solid hand, a little bit risky. I do need to hit 1 land, but our opponent's going first, so we're on the draw. If I hit 1 land, I can Danitha with an Arcane Flight on her, which is pretty sweet. Obviously, ideally, I hit a lot more lands throughout the game, but we'll see what happens here. We are starting with 3 mana. That is excellent. We know we're going to make it to Danitha. We're against blue-black, a Knight of Malice. Kind of the pre-sideboarded card here. Going to be very good against our deck. 2 mana, 2/2 first strike. It's going to be a 3/2 first strike because we're playing white, and it's hexproof from white, so we can't do anything to that with our white cards. This might be dumb, but I'm just going to Syncopate Skittering Surveyor. It's a pretty decent value play, and I'm not going to have anywhere that Syncopate fits into my curve super well. Because every turn that I can afford to cast one of these spells, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to be holding up instants. Llanowar Elves. And they don't attack into Danitha, and we draw another Syncopate. That makes the previous Syncopate all the better. Don't love that I have to tap out a blue to do this, but I still think it's probably worth it. Get Danitha into the sky. Still have Adamant Will at least to counter an Eviscerate from my opponent. We obviously just take that damage, because if I try to block, then it's going to be a trade. And I don't really want to run into a trick. I don't want my opponent to be able to use instant speed removal in response to me trying to Adamant Will. Alright, Cloud Reader Sphinx. If I hit a land, I will deep freeze that and hold up Adamant Will still. If I hit an island, then I get to deep freeze that and hold up Syncopate or Adamant Will. Don't hit a land. What do I do if I don't hold up a land? Or if I don't draw a land, do I still just hold up deep freeze? Or just hold up Adamant Will and pass? Or do I just deep freeze it and attack? I feel like if my opponent had removal for Danitha, they would have killed it last turn. I don't remember if they scryed to the top or bottom. That would actually be pretty important to keep in mind. But I forgot to check. If they scry to the top here, it's probably removal, and I should just hold up Adamant Will. Probably best to just deep freeze there. We'll definitely find out now. But worst case scenario, I probably get to cast something here, even if they don't try to kill Danitha. Okay, I can't Syncopate that, and that is a deadly card. That puts a +1/+1 counter on their whole field, gives them all Vigilance, Trample, Indestructible. That's horrifying. Destroy an artifact or enchantment, and they have 1 mana up? Okay, cool. So that's what they probably kept. Cool. Alright, oh, beautiful. Oh, beautiful. Now I get to hold up the Adamant Will, and I get to deep freeze the flyer, so it doesn't work with Song of Freyalise anymore. Nor does it block. One card in hand, Muldrotha. Nothing in their grave, though. Not the scariest Muldrotha I've ever seen. You kill this Knight of Malice, but then they do have a creature in grave for Muldrotha. They're giving me the free kill on Llanowar Elves, though, so I'm just going to take that. If they're going to give me the free kill and I don't have to spend an Adamant Will, then I'll take the free kill. Oh yeah, they can just recast it. Well, still gain some life there. Forgot that the Cloud Reader Sphinx could still tap for mana from Song of Freyalise, which is pretty funny. Alright, so Song of Freyalise pops off now, and it's not going to be a good time for us, but it's not going to be horrible. The fact that it's alongside a Muldrotha does make it pretty bad, but... You think here... 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 damage maximum, and we're at 18, we go to like 5. We should be fine, so I think I can just play Cloud Reader Sphinx. If we're not going to be fine, I need to play Arcanist and hold up Adamant Will. Set up the best possible blocks. I'm pretty sure we'll just be fine, so I'm just going to play Cloud Reader Sphinx. One of these is okay to drop Coldwater Snapper, but I'm pretty sure I'm still holding up Adamant Will these future turns. Like next turn I'm definitely going to go Arcanist, Adamant Will, unless I hit something better. I'm just going to put these on bottom. Still kind of all in on Danitha here. Oh yeah, they can replay Song of Freyalise, so it pops off again. What a top deck. That's horrific. Okay, well... we lose regardless of what we do. Yeah, I need to Blessed Light Muldrotha, otherwise they get to tap down and bounce every creature I play for the rest of the game. Alright. I guess we lose. Certainly do. Guess I could double block Muldrotha, maybe. Maybe. No, I can't because I get to tap another creature down. Oh. Tap down Cloud Reader Sphinx, then I only have this. I only have 5 power with the Adamant Will. I'm at 7 life here. Yeah, I'm out of here. Moving on to the final boss. 6 and 2, heading to the final game of Magic. Absolutely disgusting stuff. And that feels like getting Coldwater Snappered with an Onsera Wings on it. Here we are in the final game of Magic today, win or lose. We are 6 and 2, so it'll be a 7-2 or a 6-3. We'll find out as time progresses. Risky hand with no blue mana, but it's still a definite keep in my opinion with Courser, Onsera's Wings, and Shalai, some of the strongest cards in our deck, available off of just the white mana. So see how we draw here, see if we are going to get punished by the mana here, or if this can turn into a pretty efficient victory for us. Playing against the black deck. Alright, Stronghold Confessor, turn 1 it is. 2-1 Menace, or a little 1-1 Menace, sorry. Alright, they're going to hit us here. That's super cool with me. We outrace them with the Bodyguard here. We did hit the blue source, which is beautiful. They may be throwing a removal spell at Bodyguard now. Vicious Offering for -2/-2. Something like that. That would be pretty okay with me. It'd be one less removal spell they can use on Shalai, because Vicious Offering allows them to sack a creature to do -5/-5 instead. And green-black tend to have a lot of Sapperling tokens for expendable creatures to sacrifice. Alright, get in there, Dauntless Bodyguard. Here's our Pegasus Courser, and we will pass the turn. Black, red, and green from our opponents. There is a black, red, green rare or mythic in the set. It's like a gigantic hasting dragon that keeps coming back from the grave. So if they have that in their sealed pool and in their deck, hopefully they don't play it against us, because that could be disastrous. Pretty sure we're going to go for a post-combat Shalai here. My opponent casts a removal spell on one of these weaker creatures. I think we're just happy with that. Alright, here's Shalai, Voice of Plenty, a 3/4 flyer, giving the rest of our board hexproof. Next turn we can drop down a Cloud Reader Sphinx, which should be sweet. Here is a Slimefoot the Stowaway. There is that Saproling producing card. Very powerful card. For 4 mana they make a 1/1 Saproling, and every time a Saproling dies, they get to make us lose a life and they gain a life. Luckily, everything we have is in the sky, so those Saprolings are not going to do any chump blocking here. And that is not going to change anytime soon as we cast another 3/4 flyer. Scry 2. Deep Freeze and Time of Ice, both exceptional, but Time of Ice I think is the better play to play first. Now if they play anything with flying to try to stop our onslaught, we get to tap it down, lock it out of the game for just long enough to finish our opponent off. This a Vicious Offering, sacrificing the Stronghold Confessor to kill Shalai. Gift of Growth Slimefoot just for fun. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have exact lethal here, so I'm guessing that is just the scoop there of like, yeah, hit combat tricks and stuff, but you made it so no combat is happening this game. Yep. The opponent can't be super happy about that one. We curved out with just exclusively evasive threats thanks to Pegasus Courser picking up that Dauntless Bodyguard on its back. So brutal game for our opponent. As we can see, they had combat tricks, they had creatures on the ground that could have flooded the board with Saprolings and stuff, but we took to the skies, and that is going to grant us our 7-win run there. Our 7th victory. We're 2,200 gems and 3 packs is the reward, so we're up a few gems in the event overall. Take a look at the deck, talk about the under and over performers here. What were our biggest problems in the games that we lost? I kind of just ran out of gas in the game against the Rite of Belzenlock Icy Manipulator. Those were just really good cards at slowing me down, making sure I couldn't finish that game off there. Was there anything I drew that was pretty horrible in that matchup? I mean, Arcanist, I think, was just sitting there doing pretty much nothing in both of our losses, so that was one of our weakest cards. The Time of Ices and the Onsera's Wings, as we knew when we put them in the deck, were absolutely incredible. Every game that we drew them and got to cast them, they were pivotal in those victories, and even the games that we lost. There were several games where it's like Time of Ice would just be perfect here. I could just win the game immediately if I draw into Time of Ice. And even in one of the games we lost, we did have an Onsera's Wings on somebody and lost that one game. But it was still the only reason we had a fighting chance throughout the game until the loss. So those were the best cards in the deck, easily. Blessed Light was great, Adamant Will was great, the Syncopates were awesome. Arcane Flight, I would say that was a bit of an overperformer. I was always worried about getting 2-for-1 with that, but we drew it in some pretty opportune times where we knew our opponent was kind of out of removal at the time, so just slapping it onto a Mace Unicorn or something, keeping all of our threats in the sky was great. Yeah, honestly, nothing else in the deck was super bad. I mean, Deep Freeze was fine. We used it multiple times to put a flyer on the ground and keep sending it in the sky, so Deep Freeze did some good stuff there. Even when my opponent got to use their Deep Freeze creature for mana, it was still pretty good for me, so... yeah. Arcanist, definitely the weakest card in the deck, but we kind of knew that already. Everything else, super good. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more like it, just like, comment, and subscribe to let the YouTube algorithm know to send you some more of these videos in your recommended feeds. We'll be back again very soon with more Dominaria Sealed. This weekend we have the Dominaria Arena Open of the original Dominaria format. That will be a very cool one. Going to try very hard to day 2 that, as I have with every other limited Arena Open this year. Then we've got Chromatic Cubes coming up, maybe a tiny bit of Crimson Vow quick drafts, and then the launch of Brothers War is only about a week and a half away on Arena, so that'll be very, very fun. Looks like a very cool set with a lot of big artifact creatures and some very classic cards and classic lore from Dominaria as well. So very cool limited stuff on the horizon if you're interested in that. But as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.